for us, it's an exciting year for Houston. Obviously, we're a team that moved from San Jose to Houston back in 2006. Had a lot of success in the early going. Won a couple of MLS Cups in 06 and 07. Dominic Kinnear was the head coach at the time. Took him to two more finals after that. So there was a really good history of doing well. I think we went through a bit of a lull about 10 years. We made the playoffs once, and we're pretty happy out in the trajectory where the club's going now. So we're excited heading to this 20th season. We feel like we have a team that can compete for trophies, and hopefully this will be our third consecutive year making the playoffs, and we'll make a run for it.
Excellent. We'll go to Steve Goff here on the left.
Hey, Pat.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Congrats on your contract extension.
Thanks.
What things are building under you and Benny? You just touched on where things you hope are headed. What are your expectations this year after the progress you made last season, and what is the next step for this
Yeah,
team?
I think the next step, we keep saying sustainable winner. That's kind of our mantra. But for us, that means making the playoffs every year. That means competing in Open Cup. That means competing, getting out of our group in Leagues Cup. And I think we've got a team that's we're bringing back the core of our team. We still need to add one or two pieces. Certainly, probably a playmaking piece is missing in the final third. If we can do that, I think we have a good chance, and we can compete with most of the teams in the league. So we're pretty excited. To touch on Ben Olsen is for us has been a unbelievably great find and a great coach. Granted, not fine guy. I worked with him, so I knew what he's like. But his character and I think changing the culture around our club has been paramount going forward. And my technical director, Asher Mendelson, Ben and myself, we're the three guys that make all the soccer decisions in the building. And I think we have a really good relationship and working relationship and personal relationship as well. So it's been pretty exciting, and it's been fun to turn the thing around.
Excellent. We're going to go our next two questions on the right. First to David Goss, and then directly behind.
Hey, David, how are you doing?
Good. Nice to see you. Get straight into it. You mentioned the attacking piece. Can you sort of talk about the profile you're looking for that 10? And second one is, can you comment on Coco Carrasquilla and the reports around
Well, I mean, there's a few, and both actually will involve Coco. So for us, we've been looking this offseason for either a playmaking 8 like a Hector Herrera, who we had is obviously no longer with us and just signed with Toluca, but or do we find that player, or do we find a 10 that can play in the right side pocket where Coco Carrasquilla has been playing? Coco would love to play as the 8 and be a playmaking 8. But at the same token, Ben has a lot of confidence in him playing in that pocket position. So we've been looking for both profiles. We've had to kick the tires on a few. I think we're moving down the line with one. We'll see what happens, but it's more of the pocket player that will go and try to play the final pass for us. So that kind of answers the profile we're looking for. The Coco Carrasquilla, it's not a rumor. There's possibility that it could happen. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of things that have to go. Was pretty preliminary that it came out, obviously, yesterday. Certainly not what we wanted at this stage of the negotiation, but we'll see. Coco's been clear, and we've been clear with Coco what we're looking for and what he's looking for. He loves playing in Houston. He loves the club. But the same token, he always wants to challenge himself and see what he can do. And I think this could be a good opportunity for him.
We're going to stay on the right.
Coach, how are you? Yeah, I want you to tell me what does it mean to lose Hector Herrera, and how do you qualify the time he was with the team?
Yeah, first and foremost, Hector was a massive success for our club. Massive. He came in, obviously, when he came in the first year, I think the expectations were pretty high, and it was a difficult year for him leading into the World Cup in Qatar. He had a hamstring injury. So that first 6 months was an adaptation period, but his year in 2023 was certainly in our club's history, was the best year that any individuals had in our club's history. He lifted a trophy for us from a team that had made the playoffs once in 10 years and made us believe as a group that we could succeed in our league and also compete with the best teams in our league. So that year alone makes his tenure with us a success. Unfortunately for him, as I can tell you from experience, age is undefeated. And as you get older, sometimes, your body breaks down. And last year was a tough year for him just to stay physically fit on the field. When he was on the field, he was tremendous for us. Unfortunately for us, he was on the field for about 50% of the minutes. And that was really the number one reason for the decision to let him go, is that, we paid a lot of money for a player that was really only available for 50% of the minutes. And, he was a fantastic guy to have in our locker room, fantastic guy to have in our club. And we wish him well and still have a really good relationship with him and his agent. So we're looking forward to see what he does in Toluca.
So we'll stay in the front row here.
Hi, hello, Pat. All right, so you have a large career, right? On the field, now, outside the field.
I don't know about large, but long.
It is a really large
yeah.
one. So my question gonna be now from this position, right? Structure wise, what kind of decision do you feel are game changing outside the field? What's your approach on that?
In terms, sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question. In terms of what my role is?
Of course, definitely.
Okay, yeah. So, my role, I think when I came to the club, we're very fortunate. We have an owner 3 years ago, Ted Siegel, that brought the club about 3.5 years ago now. Fortunately, I think he was looking around to try to find someone who had experience in the role that I'm in. Fortunately for me, I don't think a lot of guys were there, but also the fact that I played in the club and I really wanted this job. I was really excited about the opportunity to work for Houston. I had a lot of attachment from my daughter was born there. My wife loves the city. I love the city. We were excited to come back. So I'm digressing a little bit, but I'm trying to answer your question. Is I care a lot about the club, probably more so than most GMs in the league, presidents in the league. I think I've got this connection with the club. I played there for 5 years. With Dominic Kinnear as our head coach, I've seen what he put into the club. So it means a lot to me. So for us, the biggest thing that was frustrating from the outside watching is the team wasn't successful. But the biggest problem we had was a culture shift. That's what we had to get through. And I think the first year that we spent, myself, Asher Mendelson, who was a technical director, the two of us spent the entire year really just trying to get our staffing and the players to change their mindsets and become saying, like, this isn't good enough where we're at, and how do we hold each other accountable to try to get better and do it in a respectful way, do it in a way where we're not pointing fingers at each other, but we're in it together. And I think I think that's probably where I'm most proud of what we've done, as much as winning a trophy, qualified for the playoffs. But our culture at the club has completely shifted. We have wonderful people that work together, and we do work together, and we're all kind of moving forward to try to be successful and win trophies.
We have time for 2 more questions in the room. We're going to go to Alex Labdu.
Two-parter for you. One, you've obviously been around this league a long time. As a GM, is there something you'd like to see change from a roster construction standpoint? And number 2, what are your thoughts about a potential schedule change?
Number 1 on the roster stuff, I'm still trying to figure out the roster stuff. So for me to change it, I don't know if that's a great idea. I think we have a league that does a really good job of trying to make sure that there's parity in the league. Whether it's Miami bringing in all these fantastic players into the league, they still, for better or worse, they still have to play in the playoffs, and there's going to be weaknesses in that team, and other teams can exploit that, and vice versa. Can you be a Philadelphia Union and say, oh, we're going to bring a ton of academy players, and outside of last year, that's been a team that's fought for trophies. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it within the roster configuration. So do I think there's major changes? No. Do I think there's tweaks and stuff we'd like to see? Sure, but we'll get to those eventually when we get to those. And then in terms of the calendar shift, I think this is one thing, especially now, and some of the coaches we were talking here, and Greg Berhalter's obviously a sporting director as well. We were talking about that just before we got in here. It's difficult. This is a difficult time of year to go get players. As our league gets better and better, we're trying to pluck now the best players from other clubs. And if you do that in a January window, you're destroying the other club's season. So it becomes really difficult until we match up with the rest of the world. So from a recruitment standpoint, it'll be a big change. If we can do this as a league, it'll really help us be able to recruit the top players and bring them into our league. And I think it'll actually help, lower costs a bit. Because if you're going after a player now in January and a team's like, well, there goes any chance of me qualifying for Europe, you're going to have to overpay for that player. So I think for us, if we can change from a recruitment standpoint, makes a big difference. And I also think there's some markets obviously would argue differently. I think in Minnesota, they would say, well, you kidding me? I'm going to play in the snow. I can tell you in Houston, I don't think it's very pleasant to sit in the stands in the middle of July. So I think they would rather say, let's have us sitting in the stands right now. It's, 55 degrees in Houston. It's a perfect night to go watch soccer play. So I think there's a balance. Our country's so huge. Our league's so diverse in terms of climate change, so the climate stuff. So I think for us, the shift would be astronomical for us.
Our final question will come from the front
Hello,
row.
Pat. Good morning. One of the most talented and important player of Houston is Alberto Carrasquilla. There's some news that Pumas is behind him. What are the chances now that Alberto stays in Houston Dynamo?
I think we're still at the early stages of that discussion. I think it'd be premature for me to say what's going to happen. We know we call him Coco, and if I could speak as eloquently as you can with Alberto Carrasquilla, I would love to. I'd call him that too. But so Coco for us is a fantastic player, and he's a big piece of our program. It would be a big loss for us, and we'd have to quickly pivot and make sure we try to replace him, which will be difficult. But having said that, he's always been very open about how he wants to keep progressing his career, how he wants different challenges, and we've been supportive of that. So I don't think the issue really is going to be the agreement between the clubs. I think the agreement is going to be for Coco to make sure that he's comfortable and that this is the best opportunity, the best project for him to move forward. And we work very well with him and his agent, and we're happy that there's an opportunity here. In the end, it'll be up to him, and it's his decision.
Excellent, Pat. Thank you very much for your time, and best of luck this season.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Everyone. Next up, we'll be joined by